Close your eyes. Listen. There's a soft hum beneath the clouds, the sound of an airplane gliding above the Pacific, carrying me east into the folds of another world. The cabin lights are dim, the hum steady, and outside, the first pink hues of dawn stretch across the horizon. I left San Francisco while the night still clung to the streets. Now, as we descend, Kyoto waits below, a city that breathes in centuries, that remembers what the world forgets. When the wheels touch down in Osaka's Kansai airport, I feel the air change, clean, damp, and scented faintly with the sea. I collect my small suitcase, step out into the arrival hall, and find the quiet efficiency of Japan already at work. Travelers moving silently, signs glowing softly in Japanese and English, the gentle voice of announcements guiding everyone with calm precision. The train to Kyoto is waiting. Bleak. Silver. As it hums to life, I watch the countryside unfold. Rice fields shimmering with morning light, wooden houses with tiled roofs, and distant mountains wrapped in mist. I lean against the window, and it feels like the world outside moves slower here. Time doesn't rush. It flows like water, unhurried, knowing exactly where it's meant to go. An hour later, Kyoto Station rises before me, a stunning contrast of glass and steel against a city known for temples and whispers. I step outside, and the air greets me with that unmistakable scent of early spring, rain-soaked stone, blooming cherry buds, and the faint sweetness of incense drifting from a nearby shrine. The taxi driver bows slightly as I slide into the back seat. He smiles through the mirror. First time in Kyoto. I nod. He nods back, as if he's seen this moment many times before. As we drive, the streets shift from modern to ancient, from neon signs to quiet alleys where wooden machiya houses lean close to one another, their paper lanterns still lit in the pale morning light. A woman in a kimono sweeps the front of a tea house. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls softly. The driver slows. "Gion," he says, pointing. "Old Kyoto." I press my forehead lightly to the glass. The world outside feels suspended, like a dream that knows you're dreaming. I check into a small ryokan tucked between narrow streets. Tummy mats, shoji screens, the faint aroma of green tea and cedar. As I set my bag down, I slide open the paper window. Outside, a cherry tree stands in the courtyard, each petal trembling on the edge of bloom. Exhale. The journey has truly begun. Tomorrow, I will walk through the torii gates of Fushimi Inari. But for now, I let Kyoto's silence seep in. A silence that isn't empty, but alive. A silence that holds stories centuries deep. And as I lie on the futon with the rain starting to whisper against the eaves, I think, maybe I didn't come here to see Kyoto. Maybe Kyoto called me here to remember something I'd forgotten. The morning comes quietly, as if Kyoto prefers to wake without sound. A thin mist curls through the narrow streets, and the air feels like silk against my skin, cool, light, and scented faintly with rain and cedar. I dress simply. Soft shoes, a linen shirt, a notebook in my pocket. Outside, the city hums gently. Bicycles gliding past, the hiss of a kettle from a tea house, the distant call of a crow perched somewhere beyond the rooftops. The taxi takes me to Fushimi Inari Shrine, the most sacred of them all. When I arrive, the world feels painted in red. Hundreds, no thousands, of torii gates rise before me, stacked so tightly they form a corridor of vermillion light, each one carved with Japanese characters, names of those who donated them, prayers etched into the wood. The air is wet and cool, filled with the earthy scent of the mountain. At the entrance, I bow slightly, copying what I see others do. I don't know the exact ritual, but I feel its gravity. I clap twice, lower my head, and whisper something. Not a prayer exactly, but gratitude. For being here. For breathing in this moment. Then I begin to walk. The torii tunnel stretches endlessly, twisting up the hill in gentle curves. The light shifts as I move, sometimes glowing warm and golden, sometimes dim and crimson. My footsteps echo softly on the stone path. Somewhere above, the rustle of leaves sounds like whispers, as if the mountain itself remembers every prayer that's ever passed through here. Halfway up I stop. A small fox statue watches me from the base of a shrine, its stone eyes calm and knowing. A pair of offerings, rice crackers and sake, rest beside it. The fox, I recall, is the messenger of Inari, the god of rice, fertility and fortune. I nod to it, as if acknowledging a quiet guardian. As I continue climbing, I notice how the city slowly disappears below me. The higher I go, the more the modern world fades, replaced by wind, by birdsong, by the rhythmic beat of my own heart. Time dissolves here. The gates are no longer just gates, they feel like portals, each step carrying me deeper into something timeless. I pass a small tea stand tucked beneath the trees. An elderly woman sits behind the counter, steaming a pot. She smiles without saying a word, gestures for me to sit. Do. She pours a cup, matcha smooth and vibrant green. I sip it slowly, and the warmth fills me. For a brief moment, it feels like she and I are the only two people left in the world. When I finally reach the summit, Kyoto lies below me, a sea of rooftops, glimmering temples, and faraway mist. The sun begins to break through, scattering gold across the valley. I stand there quietly, hands in my pockets, breathing in a kind of peace I didn't know I'd been searching for. The wind brushes past, carrying the faint scent of incense. And just for a moment, I swear I hear a whisper, not in Japanese, not in English, but in the language of stillness. It says, "Keep walking." So I do. The day drifts into late morning as I step off the small train in Arashiyama. The air here feels different. Lighter, cleaner, scented with moss and the faint sweetness of river water. A soft breeze carries the sound of temple bells from somewhere beyond the trees, and the faint chatter of tourists fades the deeper I walk into the district. The path narrows, flanked by low fences of bamboo. Then suddenly the world shifts. The Arashiyama bamboo grove opens before me like the entrance to another realm. Tall, green stalks rise toward the sky, impossibly straight, impossibly still. The light filters through them in pale ribbons, casting moving shadows on the stone path. Each gust of wind sends a low murmur through the forest, not loud, not sharp, but fluid and whispering, as if the bamboo itself is breathing. I start walking slowly. Every sound, every footstep, every breath feels magnified. It's not silence here, not really. It's music. A symphony made of rustle and rhythm, of wind brushing against leaf. The air carries a soft coolness, and I can feel the temperature drop as I go deeper in. A man passes me, a local perhaps, walking his bicycle quietly through the grove. We exchange a brief nod. No words. None are needed. This place doesn't need language. Speaks in stillness. I stop for a moment, placing my hand on one of the bamboo stalks. Smooth, cool, alive. The trunk vibrates faintly under my fingertips, the echo of the wind traveling through it. I imagine all of Kyoto's centuries moving through this same rhythm, emperors and monks, poets and wanderers, all standing here, listening to this same song. Further ahead, I find a small side path leading to Okochi Sanso Villa, a garden built by an old Japanese actor long gone. From the terrace, the city stretches below, wrapped in mist. The wind carries the scent of pine and rain-soaked stone. The sound of bamboo fades into the distance, replaced by the slow creak of wooden boards beneath my feet. A monk appears at the corner, offering tea in a quiet ceremony. We sit together beneath the maple trees, sipping matcha from small bowls. The tea is bitter, warm, grounding. He doesn't speak much, just smiles, eyes kind and deep as water. When I finally stand to leave, he bows slightly and says in a voice barely above a whisper, "Listen to the wind." As I walk back through the bamboo path, I understand what he meant. The wind here doesn't just move, it remembers. It carries voices of those who once walked this same road, their footsteps fading into eternity. And for the first time, I let the silence fill me completely, not to escape the world, but to belong to it again. By the time I reach Kayamizadera, the day has ripened into a warm, golden afternoon. The sun hangs low, spilling honey-colored light across the city below. I climb the long, sloping path of Matsubara Street, lined with small souvenir shops and tea stalls, each one humming softly with life. The scent of roasted matcha, grilled rice crackers, and sweet red bean fills the air. A young woman in a pastel kimono passes by, her geta sandals clacking gently against the stones. Cherry petals cling to the hem of her obi. Somewhere behind me, a vendor laughs. Kyoto, I realize, doesn't shout its beauty, it hums it, like a memory half remembered but always present. When I finally reach the temple gates, I pause. Kayamizadera rises before me, ancient and proud, its great wooden stage jutting out from the mountainside, supported by towering pillars of cedar. Built without a single nail, they say. A marvel of craftsmanship and faith. The air here feels thinner, almost sacred, as though every breath carries a piece of history. I take off my shoes before entering the hall. Inside, the scent of incense and old wood wraps around me. Golden statues glimmer in the dim light. Bells chime softly in the distance. A monk sweeps the tatami floor in slow, deliberate strokes, each motion quiet and meditative. When I step out onto the balcony, my breath catches. Below, Kyoto stretches endlessly. Tiled rooftops, distant shrines, and a sea of maple trees glowing in crimson and amber. The wind rises gently, brushing through my hair, carrying the faint laughter of tourists from far below. The wooden boards creak beneath my feet, the sound both fragile and eternal. I lean on the railing, just standing there, watching, listening. The view feels unreal, like I've stepped into a painting too still to belong to the modern world. The temple bell tolls once, deep, resonant, ancient. Its sound rolls across the valley like thunder, but softer, filled with something that feels like remembrance. To my right, a small group of locals toss coins into a box before bowing. Their hands come together, their eyes close. I do the same, not because I know the words but because it feels right. Because in this place, silence says more than any prayer ever could. As I turn to leave, I notice a wooden plaque hanging near the entrance. On it, written in careful brushstrokes, "The heart of pure water." Outside, the sky has begun to shift, blue to orange, orange to pink. The city glows below, lanterns flickering to life one by one. I walk down the slope, passing the Ottawa waterfall, where visitors sip from bamboo ladles for wisdom, longevity, or love. I take a sip, the water cold and sweet. At the bottom of the path, a soft rain begins to fall, barely more than mist. I pull up my hood and smile. Kyoto, wrapped in rain and light, looks even more like a dream. The rain falls gently, almost too softly to hear, more like a breath than a storm. By the time I reach Gion, the ancient heart of Kyoto, the streets are slick with reflections. Paper lanterns glow in shades of red and gold, mirrored perfectly on the wet cobblestones. It feels like walking through a memory that never fully wakes up. The narrow alleyways are lined with machiya, old wooden houses with latticed fronts. Each doorway hides a secret, a tea house, a restaurant, a whisper of laughter carried by the rain. The air smells faintly of soy, incense, and damp cedar. I walk slowly, umbrella in hand, letting my footsteps find their rhythm in the hush of evening. A geisha appears from around the corner, or maybe a maiko, still in her apprentice years. Her kimono shimmers under the lantern light, a soft palette of lilac and silver. Her hair, pinned with ornaments shaped like plum blossoms, glints as she moves. She walks quickly, her gaze lowered, her sandals clicking lightly on the stones. For a heartbeat, our eyes meet, and she smiles. Not wide, just a trace, like the ghost of a dream. And then she's gone, swallowed by the rain and light. I stop by a tea house entrance, the curtains swaying gently. The sound of a shamisen leaks through, that plucked melancholic tone that feels both ancient and intimate. I hesitate, then step inside. The room is small, lit only by candlelight. The scent of tatami and green tea fills the air. A woman in a pale kimono pours me tea. Her movements fluid and deliberate, like water shaping stone. The matcha is thick and bitter, earthy. I sip it slowly, listening to the rain tapping the paper windows. There's a rhythm to Kyoto nights, unhurried but alive. The city doesn't sleep. It breathes differently after dark. Outside, the lanterns sway. Somewhere, a bell chimes from a nearby temple. The sound ripples through the air like an echo from centuries past. When I step out again, the rain has eased into a fine mist. The streets glisten under the soft amber glow of lamps. I wander aimlessly, past hidden gardens, through narrow passages where only one person can fit at a time. The world feels intimate here, as though Kyoto is speaking directly to me, softly, through the spaces between sound. I cross a small stone bridge arching over Shirakawa Canal. The water below ripples faintly, carrying fallen cherry petals downstream. For a moment I stop and close my eyes. The air hums with stillness, yet it's alive, with memories, with the scent of rain, with the distant footsteps of all who walked here before me. When I open my eyes again, a faint breeze catches the edge of my umbrella and tilts it slightly upward. Above, the lanterns flicker. The rain glows around them, and I realize, this is what peace looks like when it remembers how to dream. I walk on, and the city follows me, quietly like a shadow made of light. Kyoto wakes differently than any other city I've known. Not with noise, not with rush, but with rhythm. A gentle pulse that spreads from the temples to the riverbanks, from the tea houses to the open stalls. By the time I step into Nishiki Market, morning has fully stretched its limbs, and the air hums with life. The narrow street is a tunnel of color and scent. Vendors call out softly, their voices polite, never sharp. Steam rises from pots of ramen and miso. The tang of pickled vegetables mingles with the sweetness of roasted chestnuts. I take a few steps in and feel immediately surrounded. Not crowded, but embraced. To my left, a man grills skewers of eel, the glaze crackling under the flame. He smiles as I stop to watch. "Anegi," he says, offering me a small piece. The flavor is smoky, rich, and impossibly tender. "Oishi?" he asks. Grin, nodding. "Oishi," I answer. He laughs softly, as if sharing a secret. Further ahead, a woman arranges bowls of matcha salt, each one glowing a different shade of green. Another pours soy sauce into tiny glass bottles, each sealed with wax. The market isn't just a place of trade. It's a living archive of Kyoto's senses. Every smell, every taste, every color tells a story that's been told for hundreds of years. I stop at a small stall selling taiyaki, fish-shaped pastries filled with sweet red bean. The vendor, an old man with hands like folded paper, flips them expertly on an iron mold. He gives me one, still warm. The first bite, crisp shell, soft inside, tastes like childhood even though it isn't mine. As I wander deeper, the light filtering through the roof panels paints the crowd in soft amber and jade. I hear laughter, the shuffle of sandals, the steady clatter of knives against cutting boards. Every motion here is deliberate, respectful, like a dance everyone already knows. Near the end of the market, I find a small shop selling hand-carved chopsticks. The owner, a quiet woman with silver hair, runs her fingers along the polished wood. "Each pair," she says gently, "holds a little spirit of the tree it came from." I choose a simple pair of dark cherry wood. She wraps them carefully, ties the paper with a thin red string, and bows deeply. I bow too, unsure if I'm doing it right, but she smiles, and that's enough. When I step back into the sunlight, the market sounds fade behind me, replaced by the hush of the side streets. Kyoto moves at its own tempo, the kind that doesn't push you forward but invites you to linger. I walk toward the Kamogawa River, the morning breeze carrying the faint scent of soy and sea. Along the bank, couples sit in silence, students ride bicycles, and an old man feeds pigeons by the bridge. The water glimmers softly beneath the pale blue sky. I sit, letting my chopsticks rest in my lap. Around me, Kyoto hums quietly, alive, unhurried, content. Take a slow breath. Feels like inhaling time itself, the kind that asks for nothing, the kind that simply lets you be. The morning fog still lingers in the narrow streets as you make your way toward Ryoanji Temple, a place the locals call the Temple of Quiet Minds. The air is cooler here, scented faintly with pine and rain-soaked earth. Kyoto seems to hold its breath as you pass through the temple gate. No cars, no chatter, no hurried footsteps, only the rhythmic crunch of gravel under your shoes. You've seen 1,000 photos of this place. The stone garden, the 15 rocks arranged in perfect harmony. Yet as you stand before it now, something feels entirely new. The world narrows down to this rectangle of raked white sand, this geometry of stillness. Each stone seems to hold a story. One like a mountain, another like an island, a smaller one like a fragment broken off from something much larger. The patterns of gravel curve and swirl, as if mimicking the invisible movement of water. And yet nothing moves. A soft voice breaks the silence. An old monk stands beside you, robes faded to the color of worn parchment. His face carries the calm of someone who has watched the same sunrise for half a century. He says, almost whispering, "From where you stand, you can never see all 15 stones at once. No matter how you shift your gaze, one will always hide from you." You turn, testing his words. Left, right, crouching slightly, and it's true. There's always one missing. He continues. It is not a flaw. It is the lesson. In life too, you can never see everything at once. Some truths stay hidden until you move, until time changes your place. For a long moment, neither of you speak. You just watch the faint sunlight spread across the sand, the shadows of the stones lengthening. A single leaf drifts down from the maple tree above, landing softly in the middle of the pattern, an imperfection so small, yet it feels like part of the design. The monk smiles as if reading your thoughts. When you stop searching for perfection, he says, you begin to see what was perfect all along. You look again at the garden, the stones, the sand, the fallen leaf, and suddenly it feels complete. Not because it has changed, but because you have. Outside, the city is still waking up. You hear the distant hum of bicycles, the call of a crow. A group of school children passes by, their laughter bouncing off the temple walls before dissolving into the air. Life resumes, gentle, unhurried, and impossibly fragile. As you leave the temple grounds, the monk's final words follow you like a soft echo. Silence doesn't ask for answers. It gives them. You walk through the moss-covered garden path, and the morning sun finally breaks through the clouds. The light dances on the pond's surface, scattering reflections of the surrounding trees. Fragments of the world, incomplete yet somehow whole. And in that moment, Kyoto teaches you something no guidebook ever could. That peace is not the absence of sound or struggle. It is the quiet acceptance that some stones will always remain unseen. By the time you reach Arashiyama, the air feels different, lighter, scented with the sweetness of cedar and river mist. Kyoto unfolds here like a dream in motion. You cross the wooden Togetsukiyo Bridge, its planks creaking softly beneath your feet, and for a brief moment you feel suspended between two worlds, the living city behind you and the timeless mountains ahead. The river flows gently below, carrying fallen maple leaves in shades of red so deep they seem almost alive. The wind picks up, scattering a few onto your coat, and you can't help but smile. Everything feels intentional. The sound of the current, the rhythm of your breath, the hush of distant footsteps blending into nature's hum. Along the riverbank, a painter sits cross-legged with his canvas tilted toward the water. He doesn't look up when you pass. His brush moves slowly, deliberately, stroke after stroke, as if he's painting time itself. You pause, watching. His canvas isn't filled with detail but essence. A blur of red, a hint of mist, a suggestion of light. You ask softly, "Why don't you paint what you see?" Without lifting his gaze, he replies, "Because what I see will fade. But what I feel, that might stay." The simplicity of his words cuts through you like wind through bamboo. You look back at the river. The reflection of the mountains is trembling slightly, the surface broken by a single fish surfacing for a moment, then vanishing again. Everything here exists only for an instant. Further down the path, you enter a grove of maple trees ablaze with color. Sunlight filters through the red leaves, painting your face in shifting shades of gold and fire. The path beneath your feet is carpeted in autumn, a mosaic of decay that somehow feels sacred. You hear distant bells from a temple hidden among the trees, their sound slow, deliberate, and infinite. You stop walking. Close your eyes. There's something deeply human about standing in the middle of impermanence, feeling beauty and loss intertwined so tightly that you can't tell them apart. This is Kyoto's quiet secret. It teaches you to let go without regret, to love without needing to hold. When you open your eyes again, the wind has shifted. The leaves are falling faster now, swirling around you like glowing embers. A small child runs through the drifting red, laughing, his hands stretched wide as if trying to catch time itself. For a moment you wish you could too, but you simply watch. And in watching you understand. The painter's voice echoes faintly in your memory. What I see will fade, but what I feel, that might stay. You turn once more toward the bridge. The sun is setting behind the mountains, staining the river with molten gold. You take a deep breath, trying to memorize the scent of this hour, the warmth of this light, the weight of this silence. And as you cross back over the Togatsukyo Bridge, you realize something. You're not leaving Arashiyama. It's coming with you. The first rays of sunlight spill over the domes and minarets as I leave the docks, making my way toward the Mazur Karsisi, the famed spice bazaar of Eminonu. Even at this early hour, the air is already fragrant, a heady mix of cardamom, cinnamon, saffron, and sweet dried fruits that seems to whisper promises of stories and tastes to come. The narrow streets leading to the bazaar are alive with motion. Shopkeepers sweep the steps outside their stores, arrange piles of colorful spices in neat pyramids, and hang strings of dried peppers, their reds and oranges vivid against the aged stone walls. Small lanterns sway gently above, though their glow is soft against the morning light. I step inside the bazaar and the world changes. The aisles are narrow and bustling even in the early hours, and the air hums with energy. Voices calling prices, coins clinking, the quiet rustle of fabric, and the distant call of a neigh from somewhere deep in the market. Every stall is a visual feast. Copper pots gleaming, teas in translucent glass jars, and vibrant rugs rolled carefully in corners. A vendor smiles as I pause, offering me a taste of rose-flavored lokum. I accept, letting the sweet, delicate chew dissolve on my tongue. Behind him, sacks of saffron shine like tiny suns, and piles of cinnamon sticks fill the space with a warm, earthy aroma. The richness of the scents and colors is intoxicating, almost magical, and I breathe it all in slowly, savoring the moment. As I wander deeper, I notice the small details. A pair of elderly women laughing over a basket of dates, a child's hand brushing against golden nuts, a cat slinking under a stall as if it belongs there. The sounds, smells, and movements create a rhythm unique to the bazaar, a melody of human life interwoven with centuries of commerce and culture. I pause at a stall where a man grinds fresh coffee beans in a small wooden hand mill. The smell is strong and dark, swirling around me, blending with the sweetness of spices and the subtle tang of dried citrus. He hands me a small cup, the foam perfect, and I sip slowly, letting the warmth spread through me. The taste is bold, rich, and grounding, a tiny ritual that connects me to Istanbul in ways words cannot capture. From a small window above, sunlight filters down, glinting off jars of colorful teas and spices like liquid gemstones. The shadows dance along the walls, stretching and shrinking with the sun's climb, painting the space in movement and light. Everywhere I look, there is color, life, and the sense that every object, every sound, every smell carries a story older than I can imagine. I pause near an open door, looking out at the golden light spilling into the street. Boats glide across the Bosphorus in the distance, gulls wheel above, and the city hums with awakening. I take a deep breath, letting the fragrance of the bazaar, the warmth of the morning sun, and the rhythm of Istanbul settle into me. And I realize that in this city, even the smallest corners, an alleyway, a spice stall, a stray cat, hold centuries of life and history, patiently waiting for those who arrive with eyes to see and hearts to feel. The morning sun spills softly across Kyoto, casting long golden shadows through the trees. I step onto the Philosopher's Path, a quiet stone trail that winds alongside a narrow canal. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of cherry blossoms and damp earth. Kyoto hums gently here, but the sound is subtle. Just the water's ripple, a bird's distant song, the soft rhythm of my own footsteps. The path is flanked by maple trees, their leaves a fiery tapestry of crimson, amber, and gold. Sunlight filters through the branches, creating shifting patterns on the ground. Each step feels like stepping into a painting, one where time itself slows and every detail is magnified, yet softened like a memory half remembered. Along the canal, small stone bridges arch gracefully, and the water below glistens with reflected colors. I pause at one of them, leaning on the railing, watching koi swim lazily beneath the surface. Their movements are deliberate, unhurried, a quiet lesson in patience. Occasionally, a local walks past, bowing slightly in greeting. There's no rush here, no one hurries. The path itself seems to dictate the pace, and I find myself walking slower, letting my senses open to every sound, every scent, every subtle change in the light. A small shrine appears along the way, tucked between two houses. I step inside, greeted by the soft scent of incense. Wooden plaques hang from the beams, filled with prayers written in delicate calligraphy. I add my own, tracing a wish into the grain of the wood. Not for fame, not for wealth, but simply for presence, for clarity, for the ability to remember this day long after I've left. As I continue, a gentle breeze sweeps through the trees, carrying petals in its wake. They drift like slow-moving snow, landing softly on my shoulders, in my hair, on the path ahead. Each petal is fleeting, delicate, and in their brief touch, I feel the quiet impermanence that Kyoto teaches so well. Further along, the canal widens, and a small tea house sits on its bank. Steam rises from a kettle inside. I step in and am greeted with a smile and a warm cup of sencha. The taste is delicate, earthy, calming. I sip slowly, letting the warmth spread through me, feeling the rhythm of the city align with my own. The Philosopher's Path doesn't rush you. It doesn't demand anything. It simply allows you to walk, to think, to feel, to let Kyoto's quiet wisdom seep into your bones. Every turn of the path, every bridge crossed, every petal fallen, becomes part of a larger story, a slow unfolding that stretches centuries and yet exists fully in this moment. As I step back onto the stone trail, I take a deep breath. Kyoto is alive here, not in sound, but in presence, in the space between the stones, in the hush of the canal, in the soft drift of petals. And I realize, walking here, that sometimes the journey isn't about seeing new sights, it's about seeing yourself in a new light. By early afternoon, the sun has climbed higher, scattering light across Kyoto in soft gold. I arrive at Kinkaku-ji, the golden pavilion, and pause at the entrance, stunned by its brilliance. The temple gleams under the sun, its top 2 stories entirely covered in gold leaf, reflecting perfectly on the still waters of the surrounding pond. The sight is almost surreal, a vision suspended between reality and dream. Visitors move quietly around the perimeter, cameras clicking gently, voices hushed. I step closer to the water's edge and kneel, letting my reflection merge with the temple's shimmering image. The pond is calm, broken only by the occasional ripple of a koi fish gliding beneath the surface. It feels like the world has paused, holding its breath in reverence. The garden surrounding Kinkaku-ji is meticulous. Pine trees stretch gracefully over the pond, their branches sculpted by centuries of careful pruning. Stones line the paths like guardians, each placed with intention. Moss carpets the ground in a rich green, softening every step. I feel my own breathing slow, attuning to the rhythm of this sacred place. A soft wind lifts the gold leaf from the sunlit roof, scattering tiny flakes of light across the water. The reflection dances, transforming with each ripple. I close my eyes, imagining the artisans who built this temple centuries ago, layering gold leaf by hand, shaping beauty that endures across time. A monk appears on a small bridge, holding a bell. He rings it once, the deep tone reverberating across the pond. The sound is profound and simple, echoing like a heartbeat through the garden. I bow slightly, though I am unsure if it is necessary, and he nods in return. Respect here is silent, felt rather than spoken. I wander along the carefully maintained paths, discovering small pavilions and stone lanterns, each a quiet testament to human devotion and artistry. I pause near a maple tree, its leaves just beginning to turn red with the approaching autumn. A single leaf falls onto the pond, landing gently on the water's mirrored surface. I watch as it drifts toward the temple's reflection, merging with the gold beneath me. And for a moment, the boundary between earth and reflection, past and present, feels impossibly thin. Kyoto, through Kinkaku-ji, whispers its timeless message. Beauty exists in attention, in care, in the reverence of each moment. As I step back and begin the slow walk to the exit, the light shifts, turning the gold into shades of amber. The pond mirrors the sky, the trees, the temple, and somewhere in that reflection, I feel myself reflected too, carrying a sense of calm I didn't have when I arrived. Kyoto's golden heart beats quietly here. I take one last look before turning, knowing the memory will stay, not in photographs, but in the rhythm of my own steps. The afternoon sun filters softly through the trees as I approach Nijo Castle, a fortress of history tucked quietly amidst Kyoto's modern hum. The stone walls rise solidly, their surfaces moss-speckled and weathered, whispering centuries of stories. Crossing the wooden drawbridge, I feel as though I'm stepping into another era, one of shoguns, samurai, and whispered politics. Inside, the castle's halls stretch long and low, the polished wood floors glinting faintly under the warm light. I step carefully, aware that centuries of footsteps have passed here before me. Every creak of the floorboards echoes softly, a subtle reminder that this place is alive with history. Locals call it the nightingale floors, because they chirp underfoot like tiny birds whenever someone walks above, an ingenious security measure against intruders long ago. I wander from room to room, past sliding shoji screens decorated with delicate paintings of nature. Pine trees swaying, cranes poised mid-flight, and mountains rising majestically in ink and gold. Each panel seems to breathe quietly, capturing moments of a world that still exists in memory. In the central hall, I pause to take in the space. The ceiling beams are carved intricately, and the tatami mats are perfectly aligned, creating a sense of rhythm that's both grounding and mesmerizing. I close my eyes for a moment, listening. The gentle chirp of birds outside mixes with a faint echo of my own movements, and for a brief instant, time feels suspended. A guide quietly passes by, bowing to me, and I return the gesture, sensing that here, respect is a language deeper than words. Outside the windows, the gardens stretch in carefully arranged perfection, raked sand, sculpted shrubs, and a pond reflecting the afternoon light. The wind ripples the surface, sending reflections of the castle dancing like liquid gold. I step onto the veranda, letting the sun warm my back. The air carries the scent of cedar and earth, mingled with the faint perfume of flowers from the courtyard. In this moment, I feel the weight of history without the burden of it, a stillness that is both humbling and exhilarating. Walking through Nijo Castle, I am reminded that Kyoto is not just a city, but a living archive. Its beauty is in layers: the stones, the wood, the paint, the wind, the footsteps of those who came before. Each element holds a memory, a whisper, a lesson in patience and presence. As I exit through the castle gates, I glance back at the walls one last time. They seem unchanged yet completely alive, standing quietly as centuries pass. The sun begins to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in delicate shades of pink and lavender. Kyoto prepares for evening, and I prepare to follow, ready for the next chapter, the lights, shadows, and gentle hum of the city at dusk. As the sun begins its slow descent, I make my way to Fushimi Inari Taisha, one of Kyoto's most iconic shrines. The air here is different, charged, sacred, almost electric with centuries of devotion. The vermillion torii gates stretch endlessly, forming a tunnel of color that seems to lead both forward and inward, into a space where time feels suspended. The path winds gently uphill, each gate bearing the name of a donor, some centuries old. I run my hand along the smooth wood, feeling the warmth of the sun lingering on its surface, imagining the hands that carved and painted each character long ago. The gates create a rhythm, a gentle cadence, and I find myself walking in sync with it, each step a meditation. The crowd thins as I ascend. A soft breeze whispers through the surrounding cedar forest, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Birds chirp faintly in the distance, their songs blending with the quiet echo of my own footsteps on the stone path. It feels as though the forest itself breathes in harmony with the shrine. I pause at a small clearing, looking back down at the path I've climbed. The gates seem to stretch forever, a river of vermilion flowing toward the valley below. Somewhere in the distance, a monk rings a bell, the deep tone rolling through the air, reverberating off trees and rocks. I close my eyes, letting the sound wash over me, deep and grounding, like a heartbeat that belongs to the mountain itself. Further up, a small shrine sits to the side. Candles flicker gently in the fading light, their flames mirrored in a shallow basin of water. Visitors bow silently, some leaving small offerings, others merely sitting in contemplation. I approach, bowing deeply, letting gratitude fill me. Here in this quiet moment, the world outside, the city, the noise, the rush, feels impossibly distant. The forest grows denser as I continue upward. Each gate is a portal, each shadow a reminder of the centuries that have passed under this same canopy. The vermilion glows softly against the dark green, creating a rhythm of light and color that hypnotizes the senses. I lose track of time entirely, walking without thinking, simply moving in harmony with the path. Eventually, I reach a small plateau near the summit. The view stretches across Kyoto, the city bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The torii gates behind me seem endless, a reminder that every journey, every prayer, every step is both personal and timeless. I stand for a long while, listening to the wind, watching the fading sun, feeling a profound connection to this sacred place. As I begin my descent, the gates take on a different quality, less a path, more a story unfolding behind me. Fushimi Inari is not just a shrine, It is a living, breathing testament to faith, patience, and the quiet power of repetition. Night falls gently over Kyoto, wrapping the city in a soft, indigo veil. I wander into Pontocho, a narrow street running parallel to the Kumo River, where the glow of paper lanterns bounces off the water, casting rippling reflections that seem almost alive. The scent of grilled fish, sweet soy, and cedar mingles with the crisp night air, creating a perfume unique to this hidden world. The alley is narrow, the walls of the machiya houses rising on either side. Lanterns sway softly in the evening breeze, their light painting golden pools on the cobblestones. The sound of gentle laughter drifts from tea houses, mixed with the faint strumming of a shamisen from somewhere behind a sliding door. Every corner holds a secret, every shadow conceals a story waiting to be noticed. A geisha glides past, her kimono patterned with subtle blossoms that catch the lantern light. Her steps are measured, graceful, almost floating over the stone path. I watch, feeling that for a moment time itself has slowed, allowing me to observe a slice of life that has existed here unchanged for centuries. I stop at the riverbank. The water reflects the lanterns in golden ribbons that twist and shimmer with the current. A soft breeze lifts a stray blossom from a tree, and it drifts over the water before settling among the reflections. I lean over slightly, tracing the petals with my gaze, feeling the quiet pulse of the city at night. Further down, a small bridge arches over the river, its wooden planks worn smooth by countless footsteps. Couples stroll silently, their whispers blending into the ambient hum of Kyoto after dark. I linger, letting the sounds, laughter, flowing water, distant temple bells, mingle into a gentle symphony of presence. From a nearby doorway, soft music rises, the delicate melancholic notes of a koto. The melody drifts into the alley, curling around the lanterns, wrapping the night in a quiet intimacy. I close my eyes, letting the sound and the smell, the gentle motion of water and light, fill every sense. In Pontocho, the city is at once vibrant and secretive. Every lantern, every shadow, every glint of water is a whisper from the past, a reminder that Kyoto has existed and endured in the same rhythm for centuries. Walking here feels like tracing the lines of a painting that has been slowly revealed over hundreds of years, each stroke more alive in the night. I continue slowly down the alley, stepping lightly so as not to disturb the quiet perfection. The lanterns guide me like soft stars fallen to earth, leading me to the end of the street and back into the embrace of the city's nocturnal heartbeat. Kyoto at night teaches you that beauty does not need to shout. Sometimes it only asks for your presence, to watch, to listen, to breathe. The night deepens, and I make my way toward Kyoto Station, a marvel of modern architecture rising stark and luminous against the dark sky. After a day immersed in temples, shrines, and centuries-old alleys, the sleek steel and glass of the station feels like stepping into another dimension, yet somehow it belongs seamlessly to Kyoto. Inside, the station stretches vast and cathedral-like. Escalators climb like stairways to a future built on top of the past. Glass panels reflect the city lights in endless repetition, and LED displays flicker softly, announcing departures and arrivals. The hum of the crowd is muted, almost hypnotic, each traveler moving with purpose yet unaware of the spectacle around them. I find a vantage point high above the main hall. From here, the city sprawls beneath the glass ceiling, its lights twinkling like constellations scattered across an urban sky. I lean on the railing, letting my eyes trace the patterns of movement, commuters, tourists, and locals all flowing in harmony, like currents in a vast river of light. The station's architecture is a dance of angles and transparency. Steel beams intersect with glass in intricate geometry, reflecting the neon signs outside and the soft glow of indoor lights. I notice small details: the faint imprint of footsteps on polished floors, the gentle vibration of escalators, the quiet conversations echoing through the cavernous space. Everything is alive in its own way. A group of school children runs past, laughing, their voices bright against the metallic walls. A businessman waits quietly by the ticket machines, absorbed in his phone. An elderly couple walks slowly, hands clasped. Each person is a story, a fleeting presence in a structure designed to hold millions, yet somehow still intimate. I walk toward the station's rooftop garden, where the air carries a hint of cool evening breeze. The view is breathtaking. Beyond the city lights, the mountains rise like shadowed guardians, the dark silhouettes framing the luminous urban expanse. From here, the contrast between old and new becomes vivid. The temples I visited earlier, the torii gates, the alleyways, all exist alongside this modern glass and steel cathedral, Kyoto suspended between past and present. I sit quietly on a bench, letting the city breathe around me. The wind brushes past, carrying faint echoes of the day. The temple bells, the rustle of leaves, the laughter along Pontocho. Here, in the gentle hum of modernity, I feel the pulse of a city that never forgets its roots even as it reaches for the future. Kyoto is alive in every era at once, ancient and contemporary, sacred and secular, still and in motion. Sitting here, surrounded by light, glass, and shadows, I understand that the heart of the city is not in a single temple or street, but in the seamless dance between everything it has been and everything it is becoming. The city has settled into night. Kyoto's streets, which earlier buzzed with subtle energy, are now soft with shadows and the gentle glow of lanterns. I walk slowly through the quiet avenues, retracing steps taken over the past day, each one weighted with memory, light, and sound. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of river water, incense, and the ever-present cedar that lingers in the corners of old neighborhoods. I pause at the Kamogawa River, its surface reflecting the city's lanterns and distant neon in delicate ripples. A lone fisherman sits on the bank, motionless, his rod poised silently. For a moment, I consider joining him, sitting quietly, letting the rhythm of the river guide my thoughts. Instead, I stand, feeling the cool breeze brush past and the city's heartbeat thrum beneath me. Kyoto's past and present merge seamlessly tonight. The golden reflection of Kinkaku-ji, the vermillion corridors of Fushimi Inari, the intimate lantern-lit alleys of Pontocho, and the modern cathedral of Kyoto Station, each lingers in my mind like chapters in a book written in light, shadow, and silence. I feel their presence as if the city itself is speaking directly to me, reminding me that every corner, every stone, every whispered sound carries meaning. I find myself back on a small bridge, looking down at the water, where cherry blossoms float quietly, carried by the current. The petals glimmer faintly under the soft glow of lanterns. I watch them drift one by one, and I feel a sense of completion, of closure. The day has been a journey not just through streets and temples, but through time, memory, and the quiet pulse of a living city. A soft bell rings in the distance, from a temple hidden among the trees. Its resonance carries far, wrapping the night in a gentle embrace. I take a deep breath, letting it fill me with gratitude for the sights I've seen, the sounds I've heard, and the silence I've felt. Kyoto does not need to shout. It teaches in whispers, in reflection, and in the spaces between each step. I walk slowly back toward my lodging, each step deliberate, savoring the final moments of the day. The city feels suspended between dream and reality, inviting contemplation and peace. I know that though I will leave Kyoto, its lessons will linger. The patient watchfulness of the stone gardens, the impermanence of petals on the river, the glow of lanterns, the reflection of light on water, and the quiet dignity of time itself. As I close my eyes one last time before sleep, I feel the city's essence wrap around me, a gentle, enduring embrace. Kyoto's whisper is permanent, its beauty timeless, and in that nightfall I understand. Every journey through this city is both an ending and a beginning, a quiet farewell that leaves the heart profoundly full.